Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Divine Destiny. And today I'm going to be talking about why obedience to God is so hard. And let me tell you, I probably made a video similar to this. I don't really know. I'm just going through it. To be honest, I'm going to be honest here. Okay? I hate being online. I hate the spotlight. I hate being in front of a camera. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Like, I hate having to have myself be out there and putting my life on display. Because it's not for everyone to be in my business. I don't like being on display. I don't like having to be in front of the camera. Lord knows that I hate the spotlight. But of course, you know what I'm saying? This is what I was called to do. This is what I was called to do. You know? Things could go a lot simpler. You just got people who were, love the spotlight, who are great at talking, who are great at doing these types of things. I'm not good at any of these things, yet this is what I'm called to do, And I'm not saying that Moses didn't deserve the role that he played. Of course he did. I'm just saying that, he could have got someone that was better at talking. But he chose Moses. He chose Moses for a reason, because if he would have gotten someone who was good at talking, all of the spotlight would have been on the person who was good at talking and not the creator who gave them the ability to talk. So I get why I'm called to do this, because I don't feel like I'm qualified to do any of this. I'm gonna be honest. I don't feel that way. God says otherwise. I don't feel that way. And this is why I'm starting it this way, because this is why obedience is so hard, because God will choose someone that hates the spotlight to be in the spotlight. He will choose someone, I'm sorry, I gotta open my eyes more. He will choose someone that hates the spotlight to be in the spotlight. He will choose someone who's bad at talking to be a speaker for him. He will choose someone who who doesn't have like a greater education to confound the wisest person that we have in whatever country. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'll choose those people to do those things in order to show how great he is, which is a good thing. I'm just dreading this. Like, I'm dreading this, like, being in front of a camera, talking, like, everything. I don't want my life on display, but this is just what it is. And, obedience is hard because it requires sacrifice. I'm a person that loves the cold. Like, for example, like, if you're hearing this fan right now, it's because it's hot in Georgia. It's always hot here. I don't like the heat. I hate heat. I like the cold. I was meant for the cold. I was born in the cold. Like, this is like, I was born in fall. I like the freezing cold weather. I like warm clothing. I don't like heat. I don't like any place where, like, the sun is too close to the earth. I don't like it at all. I moved away. I'm away from where I'm originally from. I'm not around the people that I'm usually around. Like, I'm surrounded by people who, I'm not usually around. And then on top of that, like, I'm asked to do something that I'm not familiar with. These are all things that, like, you have to sacrifice, And if it were my choice, I would never do this. I would never do this. But I mean, like, what else am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? I lost everything as it is. So what else am I supposed to do? I'm already here. I've lost basically everything. My father died, like everything. I've lost everything. Like, I was even living homeless at some point. Like, this was like, I've lost literally everything. I don't know what else I can lose. What, my life? That's all I have, basically. So, I might as well be obedient before that happens, you know? But, still, obedience is hard. In general, because sacrifice is hard. And not to mention, like, you have so many factors. Like, your flesh is always working against the spirit. And like I said in the last video, like, your flesh goes all the way down to the little minuscule things that you do in your life. Like, for example, like, your spirit will tell you, your flesh is always at war with the spirit. Your flesh will always try to go against what God wants you to do. So, you know, even on the smaller levels, like, your flesh will try to get you to eat candy and eat sweets so that you can be overweight and be, like, fat. And then you'll be, like, upset with yourself because you overindulge. But then your spirit will want you to eat healthy. You know, your flesh will want you to get revenge. Your spirit will want you to forgive. Your flesh will want you to, you know, to do the wrong things, to hate people, to hurt people. And your spirit will want you to do the opposite. So there's so many things working against you. There's so many things working against you. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention even the spiritual things that are happening all around us that we don't even see. Like, you know, there's witches, warlocks, demons. They work powers to work against you, to make you feel tired so that you won't want to do what God is asking you to do, to make you feel bad about yourself and make you hate yourself, you know, and make you depressed and want to end your life. Like, these are the types of things that are happening all around us that we don't even see. So it's like you have so many things that are working against you. There's a sacrifice that's already hard as it is. The sacrifice of, like, losing everything and losing all of the things that, you know, you built your personality around these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may have built your personality around a relationship and God took that away. So now what are you? Who are you anymore? You know, you may have built your relationship around your job. I mean, your personality around your job. And then you lost your job. Now what do you have? You know what I'm saying? Like, you may have built your personality around your family, but then you lost all your family. These are things like, so now it's like you're sacrificing major things in your life that you probably built your life around. Then you have the enemy working against you. You know what I'm saying? All their works. You know, the demons and the witches and warlocks that are working in the spiritual realm that you don't even see. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, you're completely out of your element. So you can't even go to the people that you usually go to. You can't even talk to the people that you would usually talk to because they wouldn't even understand and everyone will call you crazy. You know how many times I've heard chosen ones saying that they've, like, someone sent them away because they saw, you know what I'm saying? Because they're trying to explain things. They'll send you into a crazy house because they think that you don't know what you're talking about and that you're just seeing things. Because God gives you a certain amount of discernment. It's everything, man. Like, everything, you end up losing everything. And it's so hard. Like, I'm telling you, it's so hard. But it's for your good. In the end, it's for your good, and God knows what's best for you. So it's just best to just obey. I hate being on camera. No one needs to know my life. Like, you don't need to know what I have going on in my life, but, you know, this is just what it is. And, you know, that's where, like, trusting God kind of comes in, because you just got to trust that He knows what He's doing. Because, you know, the world and all of these terrible things, and God forbid you lose your life, or get put in a fish's mouth. Like, who even knows what that's metaphorically for? I mean, maybe that really happened back then, but like, as far as I'm concerned, there's no huge fish around. So like, being put in a fish's mouth means you're gonna be put in an uncomfortable position until you do what he says. I don't know what that uncomfortable position is gonna be. Like, what if it's jail time or something? I don't even know. I don't even know. But like, seriously, like, a fish's mouth could be like something like severe, where you're just like, my car broke down. I literally am homeless and I have nowhere else to go. And like, all I have is my phone and I have to make these videos. I'm gonna literally be like, whoa, all right. You know what? I could change. I could reevaluate my decisions, because I mean, I don't want to be in this situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, a fish's mouth can be metaphor for literally anything that can make you uncomfortable. There's a lot of things that can make me uncomfortable. Okay? I'm already uncomfortable as it is. In this situation, being in Georgia and not in Jersey. Okay? Being around people that I usually don't really talk to. Like, being in a situation where I don't have the support system that I used to have. This whole thing has made me on edge. It has. And it's brought out different parts of my personality. And things have... It brought out different parts of my personality that I didn't know I had. But then also, like, I started to develop a lot of terrible habits, mentalities over time from being in this situation. Like, and I'm not going to say it was a part of my personality before, because it was never there before, you know? Like, but then over time, it just developed. When you lose everything, you know, you start to develop certain parts, you start to develop certain things. Like, sometimes it can be hard to be happy for other people when your life is going so horrible. Like, it's hard to be happy for other people. And it's not necessarily that you're jealous or anything like that, but at the same time, it's just like, it's hard to smile when your father dies. It's hard to be happy when your home life is chaotic. It's hard to be there for other people when you're barely surviving yourself. So, you know, you start to get, like, upset. Things start to make you angry. You start to just, like, my anger has developed in crazy ways. And I don't want to, I'm not even going to go into that. But I'm telling you, like, and it wasn't like that before. It wasn't always like that. But over time, I started to lose control, like, you know? But I don't know. This is a long intro. Let me just start the video. I haven't even started yet. I brushed over everything what I'm gonna talk about, like, briefly, but still. I'm gonna go over the video. I got it all on my phone. Don't judge me. Why obedience to God is hard. So our flesh fights against God's will. So you know how in the Bible scripture where it says the flesh and the spirit are always at war with each other. The spirit is literally God trying to communicate with you. The flesh is basically, you know, the flesh is working against that. Okay? Worldly things. The flesh wants worldly things. So, the biggest battle isn't usually with the world. It's with our own sinful nature. Okay. We naturally want what pleases us instead of what pleases God. Okay, so, the biggest battle isn't usually with the world. It's usually with our sinful nature. Okay? We naturally want what pleases us instead of what pleases God. Okay, for example, like I was saying before, God tells us to forgive, but our flesh wants revenge. You know, God tells us to wait, but our flesh wants immediate gratification. And that's another thing I have an issue with. I don't like waiting. Like, I don't like waiting. I don't like having to wait for things to happen. I want things to be like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want like instant results. And it doesn't always work that way, But I don't always know. But you also have to understand, like, our understanding is not the same as God's. So, like, God has a better understanding, and his timing is perfect. I may not always know what's best for myself. Like, God knows parts of me that I didn't even know that I had, within me. So, I think it's important to know that, like, our timing is not always perfect. You have to trust God. All right. Number 2 is Satan wants us to disobey, which is true. All right. The devil has been tempting people to question God since the Garden of Eden. He rarely ever says, don't follow God. Instead, he twists God's words or makes sin look appealing. He makes sin look appealing, which, no, that's true. Satan tempted Eve this is an example, Satan tempted Eve by making her think that she was missing out on something good. When in reality, maybe the fruit tasted good at the time, and that's usually how sin works. It feels good at the time, but then in the end it leads to death. So now we're at a point where we die, when originally we were supposed to live forever, like the angels, but with the Lord. Number 3 is the world celebrates disobedience. Okay? Many biblical values are unpopular today. Society often encourages us to follow your heart rather than follow God. And you know what it says in the Bible, how it says your heart is desperately wicked. So your heart is wicked. You're not even supposed to be following your heart. You're supposed to be following God. Pride, this is an example, all right? So examples are like, pride instead of humility. Revenge instead of forgiveness. Or living for pleasure instead of holiness. These are things. That go against God. Alright, number 4 is often requires sacrifice. Now this is the hard part, sacrifice. Following Jesus means saying no to ourselves. So that, how it says, pick up your cross and follow Christ, You're supposed to pick up your cross and follow the Lord. Like, you're supposed to sacrifice yourself, deny yourself daily, and follow God. It can be hard sometimes. Because, like, again, if you wrapped your personality around certain things, then it's going to be hard to let those things go, because who are you after that? Like, where do you go after that? What direction are you even going in? And then on top of that, when you're following God, you don't know the full plan. He doesn't tell you everything, and even if he did try to tell you everything, you probably wouldn't understand everything, because our understanding is very limited. So it's just, the whole thing is very hard, because everything is on the line. Everything is on the line, but you just have to trust God to know that he wouldn't steer you in the wrong direction. It may seem uncomfortable at first, but over time, it's worth it. So, back to what I was saying. Following Jesus means saying no to ourselves, denying ourselves, okay? Sometimes obedience costs our comfort, popularity, relationships, or opportunities. So maybe you worked so hard to get that job, and God is like, I'm gonna need you to quit that job and go fly across the country. And you don't know anyone there, you don't know anything about the situation, and everyone there, you just feel like is weird. Like, I'm telling you, I moved to Georgia, I feel like Georgia people are weird. Southern hospitality doesn't exist down here. I'm telling you right now, it does not exist. Like, Southern hospitality is not a thing. It's not a thing. People try to say it is, it's really not. Like, and they say that people in Jersey is rude. They say that people in New York are rude. Have you ever met the rude people down here in the grocery stores and in the walking around? There's a lot of rude people. A lot of rude people. Don't get me wrong, they're everywhere, but don't try to say that like Georgia, don't try to say that the South has Southern hospitality when it doesn't exist down here. Like, people are rude down here for no reason too. You could just be nice and they're just having a bad day and they just feel like they need to take their anger out on you. Like, people are just crazy. I don't like that. I don't this is why I don't hate people, but I don't really talk to people. You know, I had like 2 friends and that's it. I don't really talk to everybody else. I don't really care to. You know, you get yourself in a lot of trouble when you talk too much or when you have too many friends. They try to get you into trouble. They try to talk about you behind your back. Hell, family will do that to you. I'm not even going to get into that. But, examples, okay? Moses gave up the pleasure of Egypt because he valued God's promise more. Okay? So he gave up the palace, living in a palace, living with a family that accepted him, loved him, to follow God. And even Moses was like, you know, I don't talk well. I'm not cut out for this. Along the lines of something, he said something along the lines of that. But then God's response was like, who made your mouth to speak? You know? And it's true. You know, he did create us. But I just have issues with, like, you know, I don't want to get on the internet. Like, I don't like the spotlight. I've never liked the spotlight. I've hated it. Like, I literally try to do everything that I can to avoid the spotlight. I had thoughts to do this when I was young, but I didn't want to have people in my business. And then I'm called to do it. Like, what? It's crazy. Like, I had thoughts to do this when I was really young. And then I just decided not to because I was like, I don't want people in my business. And now look, I had to do it anyways. It's terrible. This is terrible, bro. Okay, anyways. Number 5 is we can't always see God's bigger plan. Okay? We can't always see God's bigger plan. God often asks us to trust him before we understand why. Which is true. I don't know why I'm called to do this. I mean, I have some ideas, some thoughts, and actually no, I do know. I know to an extent as to why I'm doing this. I know to an extent, but I don't know everything. And you know, I just gotta trust God, which I do. I just dread. Like, I drag my feet every time I have to get on this camera. I'm dragging my feet because I don't want to do this. You know? Like, there's just a little bit of sulking. Just a little bit. Like a woe is me. Like, oh, why me? Why me? Why me? You know? But why not me, you know? It's usually his response. Why not you? And then what do you say to that? Literally, I don't know. I just don't want it to happen to me. But nobody wanted, like, but if you think about it, what's his name? Joseph never wanted to be thrown, to be sold into slavery. He never wanted to be sold into slavery. He never wanted brothers that would feel jealous of him. You know, he never expected that to happen, but it just did. So, you know, in the end, it worked out well for him. I'm just saying, like, you know, uncomfortability, like, I hate change. And everything has changed in my life. Literally, every single thing in my life has changed. And I am dreading it. But what else am I supposed to do? I can't change my life. I have no power to change my life. I don't know how to do any of that. I don't have the power to do it, and so God is my only solution to my problems. He's the only answer. So am I supposed to tell him no? I don't think so. When has it ever gone let me just also say this. When has it ever gone right whenever someone went against what God said? When has anything ever gone correctly, the right way, or when has anyone ever had a happy ending when they go against what God says? I'll wait. Okay? Because it's almost never happened. Okay? Your sins almost always catch up to you, and everything always goes haywire. It's about to start pouring down, raining here. This is another thing. That's the only good thing I like about Georgia. That's the only thing I like about Georgia. The fact that, like, you know, it rains a lot. And I like the rain. I like cold weather. I like snow and rain. And I like freezing cold weather that you could just bundle up under the blanket and have some hot chocolate and sit by the fire. Okay? I do not like heat. This is the only good thing about Georgia, is the fact that it rains a lot. Okay? When it's really hot, it starts to rain. It's the only thing. But anyways, back to what I was saying. We can't always see God's bigger plan. Okay? And, An example is Abraham left everything without knowing where God was leading him. So you don't know what God's plan is. And Abraham was literally about to kill Isaac, you know, to follow God's plan. So, and he didn't know where that was going to lead him. He's been waiting for Isaac. He's been waiting for a son like Isaac his whole life, basically. So, you know, that also works into sacrifice and everything. So, it can be hard sometimes, you know. But it's worth it. I mean, Abraham left his hometown and everything to obey God, because he knew that God was speaking to him. But one thing I will say also, which is like comes full circle kind of thing, God creates his chosen ones. So, like, he created Abraham to be obedient to him. So, I mean, God created Abraham to have a love for his voice and to have a love for him. You know? So, technically, it kind of comes full circle, because it's like, God obeyed, no. Abraham obeyed God, but God created him to obey. So it's like, you obeyed because God created you to obey. It kind of just shows God's sovereignty and the fact that he created literally everything. Literally everything. Like, you have a love for God because God put that within you. You have a love for Scripture because God put that within you. You are called because God called you before you were created. He put that love for the Bible and the love for doing the right thing in you because you were called before you were even on this planet. So Abraham was called before he was even put on this planet. So God put the will to want to obey him within Abraham before he was even born, before he was even formed in his mother's stomach. That's what God means when he's saying, like, he formed us in the womb, because he literally, and ordained us to be prophets, because he literally put the love for him within you. You have a love for God because he put that within you before you were even born, before you even thought of. He knew you were going to be here, and he put you here for a purpose, for a reason. So you have to do what God says. Even if it's outside of the worldly things that you put yourself in. Like, you put yourself in a shell. God created you to do a specific purpose. That purpose is more important than everything else. And as we get older, we put ourselves in our own little bubble, in our own little shell. Like, we move to certain places because we want to be there, and we create our own friendships and build our relationships because we want those relationships. And it's almost like our safety net. So you have to be okay and willing to let that all go, because you have to understand that God's purpose is bigger than the safety net that you created, because his purpose for your life was there before you met your mother, before you met your friends, before you got that job, before you did anything. God's will for your life and God's plan for your life was there before that. So you have to be willing to let all of that go, because you have value without all of those things. You just didn't see it until now. You know, your value was never meant to be in those worldly things. It was meant to be in these godly things. So, number 6, I'm just gonna go to number 6 because I keep on losing track going on. But number 6 is fear keeps us obeying. Okay? So, I don't know if you guys know about Jonah, okay? He was called to be a prophet, but he didn't want to do it, okay? And God put him in a fish's mouth. We don't know what, okay. God put him in a fish's mouth. And I don't know about you, but I don't think there's any fish that are that big anymore, okay? And I don't think he's putting people in fish's mouths anymore. I think when he says that he's going to put you in a fish's mouth, I think that's metaphor for, like, I'm going to put you in a very uncomfortable situation, in a very uncomfortable spot until you do what I say. Because there's a lot of people who need your help that need you. There's a lot of people who need your help. There's a lot of people who are suffering right now, and you are the only way that they will get out of it. And you are supposed to be doing what I asked you to do. Otherwise, these people will perish. These people will die. A lot of people will lose their lives. Women, children, okay? A lot of important people will lose their lives. A lot of people, you never even know. Like, maybe you're supposed to save a woman, and down the line, her 10th child is supposed to be a prophet of the nations. And you're supposed to save her by creating the schools or creating the shelters. But then you decide not to do it, and then she ends up dying before that, and then the prophet's not created. And then if the prophet's not created, they can't do what they're supposed to do. Like, there's a whole chain of things that are supposed to go. All of this is connected. All of this is connected. So, you know, like Ruth and Boaz. You know, all of the hard times that Ruth went through, she ended up getting married, and eventually King David became, you know, was a part of her bloodline. Now, but imagine if she didn't obey God, and she didn't obey, or she didn't, you know, go where she felt like she needed to go, and she went back to her hometown, we wouldn't have King David. We wouldn't have that bloodline. So, I mean, it's all connected. It's all connected. Alright? So, your bloodline could be used for, you know, the future. It could be used for a lot of great things. Or you could be saving someone whose bloodline could be used for a great thing. So, number 6 is fear keeps us from obeying. So, for example, I may have, like, worded that wrongly, but you get what I mean. Like, You don't want to be put in a fish's mouth, so you should just obey. Like, the fear should be the reason why you should obey, not the fear of. You shouldn't use fear to not obey. You should use fear to obey, is what I was trying to say. But back to what I'm saying. The fear of rejection, failure, or unknown can stop us from following God's commandments, which you really should not allow that to stop you, because I'm telling you, it'll end badly. It always ends bad when you don't obey God. And you fear the fear of rejection. You really should fear going to hell. You really should fear the punishments that God can, dish out to you. Okay? You don't want to be put in a fish's mouth. You don't want to be put in hell. You don't want to lose everything. Okay? And you definitely don't want to be in a really uncomfortable position to the point where, and we don't know what a fish's mouth can be metaphor for. He could end up taking literally everything to the point that you only have the clothes on your back and the phone in your hand, and now you're forced to make music. Now you're forced to make videos. Now you're forced to do these things because you don't have any other choice. You don't have anything else, because he took everything else away. You don't want that. You just don't want to be put in that situation. So, just do what God asks. Literally, just do what he asks. And it's hard, I know. I know firsthand how hard it could be. But you gotta do it. For example, Peter stepped out of the boat in faith. You have to step out in faith. Okay? But fear caused him to sink when he took his eyes off of Jesus. When you take your eyes off of God, fear sets in and you start to sink. You don't want to do that. Okay? You'll drown. And if you drown, then what? But anyways, number 7. Number 7 is obedience doesn't always bring immediate reward. And this is my issue. I want immediate results. I want results quick, fast, and in a hurry. I'm doing things, I'm making things happen. I want quick results, but I don't always get that. And with, following God, you don't always get instant gratification. And I think the internet kind of trains you. The internet kind of trains you to have instant gratification when that's not what you were meant to do. I'm getting so distracted because I'm literally about to block her. I'm not gonna keep on because she won't stop calling, and I'm getting distracted. I need to finish this. I'm not gonna, I don't want to be doing this all day. I said I don't like being on the internet. I don't like it. I really don't. But anyways, number 7 is obedience doesn't always bring immediate reward. Okay, so the internet teaches you instant gratification, to constantly want, gratification, to constantly want results. Results don't come right away all the time. Sometimes they develop, Wine, the best kind of wine, I feel like, I'm so sick of this. The best kind of wine, a lot of people say the best kind of wine are the ones that are in those little bottles that you wait years and years and years to finally open. Or the best kind of cheese, you have to wait for it to ferment and get all moldy. Things take time is my point, Things take time, and it doesn't just happen right away, but sometimes you get the best results when you wait, The best things come to those who wait. So, you gotta wait sometimes, and I know I hate waiting. I don't like waiting at all, but this is just necessary. It's necessary. We need to wait and to be patient. One of the fruits of the Spirit is to be patient. You gotta be patient. I'm still learning that. I don't like waiting. I really don't like waiting. You know, especially if I'm doing good for a really long time and I feel like, you know, I'm doing it for, but, you know, I'm doing it for a really long time and I'm not really, you know, seeing results in my everyday life. I'm just like, but good things come to those who wait. And, you know, they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings. I might put that Bible verse somewhere up here, but yeah. But obedience doesn't always bring immediate reward, okay? We often expect instant blessings, but God sometimes develops our character through waiting. Yeah, character development. You know, it takes a really long time for me. Character development takes so long, and I don't like. But it's necessary. It's necessary because, you know, if God wants to prepare you to be like a wife or like a husband, and maybe you're not ready right now. You may feel like you're ready, but you don't know until you're in that situation. And God doesn't want you to fail, so, you know, he'll make you wait until you're ready. He'll train you before you become a wife, a mother, because he wants you to succeed. So sometimes you have to wait because maybe you're just not ready. And there's nothing wrong with not being ready right away. Sometimes you just need to take steps to learn how to do things. Nothing wrong with that. But for example, you know, Joseph obeyed God for years before seeing God's promises fulfilled. He waited years before he saw God's promises fulfilled. These are things. These are examples that show, you know, it's necessary to wait. You don't always have to rush things. Sometimes you need to wait. Number 8, and 8 is my last one. All right. We love control. I don't know about you, but I want to be able to be in control of my own life. You know, I like being in control. I like knowing what's going to happen next, and I like to be able to prepare for what's going to happen next. But when you're following God, you don't know what's going to happen next. That's where faith comes in. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. You're not going to see what you're working towards. You're not going to see everything or even understand everything at first. That's why you have to believe in God even when you don't see what's going to happen. That's where faith comes in. You have to have faith in order to believe and know that everything is going to be okay. Like, everything is going to work out fine. You just have to have faith that everything is going to work out. And trust God. Trust God. Have faith in him. Because he's not going to steer you in the wrong direction. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had faith in God and didn't get burned. David, you know, was it David? No, David was a king. Yeah, David had faith in God and he became a king, alright? Daniel had faith in God and didn't get attacked by the lions, alright? Moses had faith in God and did such great things. I mean, he didn't get to go to the land of milk and honey, but still, he did a lot of great things. Brought them out of the land of Egypt, you know, out of captivity. Abraham, Isaac, they all had faith in God. Well, Isaac's story was kind of Abraham and Jacob and Isaac too. Abraham, Jacob, they all had faith and it all worked out. So just have faith in God. Because it'll all work out in the end. Number 8 is, we love control. Obedience means surrendering control to God. And that's difficult because we often want to be in charge of our lives. We love control. Obedience means surrendering control to God. And that's difficult because we often want to be in control of our lives. We want to be in charge of our lives. But you have to let go and let God. Okay, Jonah ran from God's commandments because he wanted things to happen his way. But then he realized that his way is not the best way. And his way could have led to a lot of people dying. But he prophesied to them. And the whole city of Nineveh was saved because of that. Now, had he wouldn't have done that, all of those people, the women, children, everybody would have died. But they had one of the best repentance and one of their best repentance stories because of what God commanded Jonah to do, and he did it. If he would have allowed himself to not listen to God, a lot of people would have died. A lot of people would have suffered. We don't always know what's best, and we don't always see the bigger picture. And that's why you can't lean on your own understanding, because when you lean on your own understanding, it could lead to destruction without you even realizing it. If he would have never listened to God, it would have led to a lot of destruction. A lot of people would have died. You have to listen to God because you don't always know what's best. And sometimes your life is connected to someone else's. Your life could be connected to someone that's like King David, or someone that's important. You have to listen to God, even when you don't want to. We don't know what's best for ourselves. God does. Okay? So it's very necessary to listen to God. Your life can completely go haywire without God. We were not meant to live without God. We were not meant to live without Him. And it's very important that you understand that. And without God, your life could go horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. God's laws and commandments create a border around you of protection. It creates a protection around you. And when you disobey Him, you're breaking that border around you. God's laws are there to protect you. It's there to protect you from the works of the enemy. Without God, you cannot fight against the enemy. Whether you know about God or not, you cannot fight against the enemy without God. You need Him. So when you don't have God in your life and you're not obeying His laws and commandments, these things, you're leaving yourself open for these things to come and attack you, to harm you, to hurt you. You have to obey God. Disobedience allows sin into your life, allows pride, and destroys your life. You need to obey God at all costs. Not to mention that when you go off onto your own plans, it leads to destruction every time. God's plan leads to peace, harmony, good things, life. But when we drift off onto our own plans, it always leads to death. It always leads to death. Because we don't know what's best and we have limited understanding. We don't see all sides of everything. And we don't know what God's plans are for our lives. And your plan could have been to save a lot of people, like Jonah. And had you wouldn't have done it and just did what you wanted to do, it could have led to a lot of people's death. It could lead to a lot of people dying. It is very important. I cannot stress that enough. It's very important to obey God. Even though it can be hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. Because it definitely is hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for me. It's very hard for me because, again, I'm not a people person. I don't like people in my business. I don't like my face being on camera. I don't even like my voice. I don't like talking. I don't literally like it. Everything. This whole thing goes against everything that I said. But it goes against everything that I had planned for myself. But God's plan is greater, and it was there. His plan was there before I was even born. Like the whole purpose of me being created was because I was created for a particular purpose. And that was there before I established my life and decided that I was going to live for the world, and before I decided that I was going to have these types of friends and talk this way and have this job and do all of these things. God's plan was there before that. I am on this earth for a purpose. So that has to come first over all of the things that I want and all of the things that I know and my comfort. That has to come first before all of those things. Because if it were up to me, my plan was leading me to death. It was leading me to destruction. It was leading me to the lake of fire. That was where my plan was leading me to. So I needed to follow God, because otherwise I would have been dead. I would have been dying in the lake of fire, burning. So you gotta understand, it's very, very necessary to listen to God. Obey God. Because your plan will lead you to death. It will lead you to death and a bunch of others around you. And then while you're there, and one thing I always think, like, while I'm there, if I was there, right? If I was in the lake of fire and I didn't obey God, whole time I'm going to be thinking, like, you know, had I would have just done this thing, not only could I have been saved, but, like, so many others could have been saved. My family could have been saved. I could have been saved. Like, I didn't have to end this way. Like, it didn't have to be this way. It could have gone so much differently had I would have just obeyed and had faith. All I have to do is just take a leap of faith, you know? All I had to do was just do this, and everything could have been so much better for me, but now I'm here. Like, I'm in, like, the worst situation possible, and there's no way out. Like, all I had to do was turn on the camera. All I had to do was listen. And it wasn't even hard. Like, it wasn't even hard for me to do. I just didn't do it because I just didn't want to. But look where I am now. Look at how many people could have been saved. Look at where I am now. And I don't know. I always look at that perspective because I'm just like, if I were to be in the lake of fire, I would regret it. I would regret it so much, because what God is asking me to do He's not even asking for a lot. And yeah, things are uncomfortable, but I'm not dying. You know, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm not dead. I'm not dying. It's not a life or death situation that I'm, you know, uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable, but I'm alive, and I have a chance to change. I have a chance to change. I'm alive every single day, and I have a chance to do what God is asking me to do before I even get to Lake of Fire. And I don't have to go through this whole idea, you know, like, had I would have just listened, had I would have just turned on the camera, had I would have just did what he asked me to do, I could have saved my mother. I could have saved my siblings. I could have saved our whole bloodline. I could have saved a whole bunch of people. A lot of people could have been saved. A lot of people could have been helped sooner had I would have just listened. You have to listen. You have to do what God asks you to do. You're uncomfortable, but you're not dead. It's not life or death that you're uncomfortable. It's not the end of the world that you're uncomfortable. And sometimes you need to be uncomfortable. Sometimes you need to be out of your comfort zone in order for things to change, in order for you to prosper. So, next time that you think, you know, that you don't want to do what God asks you to do, I think you should just rethink it. And I'm saying this because I need to take my own advice. Because you don't want to be in the lake of fire regretting your decisions, thinking, you know, I could have just done it. I could have just done it. Like, I could have saved someone. I could have helped. My family could have been saved. They could have saw the work that God did in me and literally could have changed, because the miracles that God wants to work within us it will be miracles that it won't even be able to be explained. No one will be able to explain it. The only way that you can explain it is literally something supernatural, bigger than anything that we've ever experienced before in our lives. Only God could do this. Science can't explain this. Doctors can't explain this. None of these things can be explained. How did this happen? God. And when people see that, people will want to change. People will want to do the right things. So just obey God, literally. Because God's going to do great works in you, through you. So, through you, he will do great works. So, yeah. Thank you for watching my video. Okay. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.